consistently disrespecting Texas A&M. They're going to have a big game week 3 against the Miami Hurricanes. At that point, we'll see where both teams are in this 2022 season. But I think the Texas A&M Aggies can crash the party.
What do you think?
I don't think A&M can crash the party. If you said disrespecting, I mean, well, they were 8-4 last year, right? 4-4 in their conference. And so, and there are questions at quarterback as well. And so I think that's why.
But they beat Bama, man. They beat Bama.
They did beat Bama, but they lost to 4 other teams. And so, like, you can't be a 4-loss team expecting to make it into the playoff. That's my issue. And the questions at quarterback is my issue.
That's last year. That's nothing to do with 2022. That's last year.
Who was their quarterback, Des?
All right, that's how tight it's going to be. All right, so wait, let me ask you this. Bama, preseason number 1, why might they be vulnerable this season, Des?
Well, because, you know, you have and Sam can attest to this, once you have a year of film study on a particular player, especially a quarterback like Bryce Young, you know the target is big on his back because he's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. But now defensive coordinators, they really have some film to study and see what some of his tendencies are. And don't forget, they lost some big weapons out there on the perimeter too. So because of those factors, I think that, you know, it's going to be incumbent upon Bryce Young to play better than he did a year ago. You know, you can't throw a 5-yard slant and then have a guy take it 90 yards. I mean, we haven't seen that yet from their receiving core. So I believe that they may be a little bit vulnerable because now they have to be a little more methodical in the way that they march down the field and score points.
Okay, so it's a challenge. That's the challenge they might face. Sam, give us one team that bounces back this season that could be a legit postseason contender.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying legit postseason contender, but I think bounce back team is Texas. Last year, they were 5-7. They lost 6 in a row. There are still many a question mark. But I think some of the answers can be provided in Gary Patterson at defensive coordinator. So you have a defensive coordinator. The defense was atrocious last year. You bring in a new defensive mind, not a coordinator, but a defensive mind in the building. There are questions at quarterback with Quinn Ewers, but there are answers at running back. Bijan Robinson, who's a Heisman candidate, Heisman in the conversation. Xavier Worthy was one of the best freshmen in football last year. And so I think when you were 5-7 last year, there's a major opportunity to bounce back this year.
Okay, Texas grad, like in Texas, right? Okay, so Des was having some fun with that. What do you think, Des?
Yeah, it's just really comical to me how you ask him a question and he tweaks it to fit his answer. Like, he didn't ask, he said, well, they may bounce back but not be a contender. No, you said a team that's going to bounce back and be a contender. Hey, listen, we're going to learn a lot about Texas week 2 when Alabama travels to Austin and tackle with and tussle with the Longhorns. That's going to be a great game. We're going to learn a lot about both teams. So, but that wasn't the question. So, Ryan, make sure that Sam answers the question that you ask him. Because he's real tricky now. He's very tricky.
I wanted to give it to him.
No, the question they asked me originally was not about postseason contenders. It was who can be a bounce back. Just so who can be a bounce back. Talk about postseason contender. That's a whole different conversation. A whole different conversation.
Wait, who's your postseason contender? Let me ask you. Then who could do that?
Well, this isn't a bounce back.
Okay.
But I would say, you know, Des talked about A&M. Okay. About being a team that could be that 4th team in the playoff. A sleeper team that no one's talking about is Baylor. And I think the reason why is you have a team that won the Big 12 last year. They were 12-2, went from 2-7 the year before to 12-2. They're returning Blake Shapen, who's a quarterback who can run more of the offense than Bill Hannon did last year. And so you have a defense that at least is physical and dominant, a team that could win the Big 12, and all of a sudden they might sneak into that conversation. They were 5th or 6th last year, played in the Sugar Bowl. They might sneak into that conversation of being that last playoff team, maybe a one-loss Big 12 champion. Des, what do you think about that?
You know what? You're 100% right, Acho. I believe that Baylor is a team that people aren't paying a lot of attention to. I love what they bring as far as, you know, and you talked about the quarterback, but they bring a brand of physicality to the gridiron too that I respect. So I think that they might be a team that when it's all said and done, and the smoke is clear.
1977, all the way back then. Another Pac-12 versus SEC matchup features number 7 Utah visiting Florida. It will be the Gators' first game under new head coach Billy Napier. And then traditional powers collide. Number 5 Notre Dame taking on number 2 Ohio State. The Buckeyes have won their last 4 meetings against the Fighting Irish. So look at this. According to the All-State playoff predictor, the Buckeyes currently have the best chance of any team to make the playoff. As for the Fighting Irish, they can double their chance to make the playoffs if they walk out of Columbus with a victory. That's a big if. Desmond Howard now joining us to talk about that. And Desmond, let's start right there. You told us that you're talking with Notre Dame offensive coordinator Tommy Rees this weekend. What's the most important question that you have about this team that you want answered?
Well, Ryan, don't forget, coming to camp, they had like a quarterback battle. And about a week ago, they named Tyler Buckner the starting quarterback. So I want to know, what did Buckner do? What did he show them in camp that separated himself from the rest of the quarterbacks? And more importantly, where are they going to find that explosive player, that guy who can go the distance? They don't have Kyron Williams any longer. And don't forget, Ryan, they have an excellent tight end in Michael Mayer. He led the team in receptions a year ago. He's going to be a weapon on the field. They're going to use him, especially when they go to Columbus. He's going to create matchup problems for Ohio State's new defense. But outside of Mayer, where are they going to get that deep threat, that home run guy? That's why I want to ask Coach Rees, has anybody emerged through camp that he believes he can rely on to be that deep threat, to give defensive coordinators fits, to give them nightmares, staying up late at night trying to figure out, how am I going to defend this guy? That's what I want to ask Coach Rees.
Yeah, Mayer has otherworldly talent, but look, that might not be enough to beat a team like Ohio State. So conventional wisdom suggests that Ohio State is the biggest threat to take down Alabama. How do you see it?
Ryan, I really don't know how people come to that conclusion. I mean, I know they have a lot of talent on offense. C.J. Stroud is a guy who, I guess by Vegas eyes, he's the front runner for the Heisman at this state. But outside of that, I would say, what have they shown you defensively? Don't forget, the last two games that we've seen the Buckeyes play against Michigan and against Utah, they allowed 87 points and almost 1,000 yards. So I need to see more defensively what they're going to do, because you can't go up against Alabama with a porous defense. I believe they have a tremendous amount of talent on offense. There's no doubt about that. But you don't want to be consistently in shootouts. So I don't know if Ohio State is the team right now that I would pencil in as the biggest threat to Alabama.
Okay, so which team is the biggest threat?
Ryan, it's a team that beat them a year ago. I think that Texas A&M. I like what Jimbo Fisher has been able to do down there at College Station. He's been able to stack excellent recruiting classes. We heard a lot about that during the offseason, right? And then they have Devin Arcane. He's one of those home run hitters at the running back position. He's great between the tackles. He's excellent on the perimeter, and he's actually a weapon in the passing game too. And more importantly, Ryan, you're dealing with a team that don't believe, that they know they can beat Alabama. And now you couple that, Ryan, with the fact that, man, Nick Saban said what he said about Jimbo Fisher and recruiting. That only adds fuel to the fire. So this is a group that mentally, they know they can match Alabama in the trenches. Don't forget, when they played Alabama, they pressured Bryce Young all game long, and he was sacked 4 times. If you can match Alabama in the trenches, that goes a long way as far as trying to beat them on the gridiron.
It's almost like they're going to come into this game saying, we got to win, given what happened this offseason. All right, you're our Heisman winner, so I'm putting you on the spot. Who's the favorite to win it this year?
Ryan, check this out, brother. Listen, as a former winner and as a voter, I think, as a member of the fraternity, I take it a little more serious than a lot of the, voters who are out there watching highlights. I think there should be a clean slate for everybody. I think that everyone should be starting at the same starting line. But if you had to give anyone an edge, to me, the only player that deserves that distinction right now would be Bryce Young, because he won it a year ago. So he's a returning Heisman Trophy winner. I would give him the slight edge over the field